Hello, everybody. We're really hoping that they're still here and watching /
The fourth
listening.
episode.
Thank you for staying with us and also sending us encouraging messages. This helps us keep going. And please do continue your love and support for us. We have yet another really interesting episode today.
Episode number 4. Today we have Sumi or Sumitra joining us to talk about gender and neurodivergence and their journey with it. And I think it's been very difficult for them to talk about it. And I know, when we first reached out to them, they were a little bit hesitant to come on board, and then something switched. I'd love to find out what switched.
The conversation around gender, around preferences, around even mental health for that matter, or your ability or your inability, I wouldn't want to term it disability, to wrap your head around certain concepts by virtue of you having either a different pathway for learning things or being able to grasp things differently. That is something that I wanted to understand a little more of. You generally tend to feel that you have to understand something for you to be kind, and that's something that we want to explore with them, right? Do you really need to understand certain concepts? Because you could have your own journey, you could take your own sweet time to wrap your head around certain concepts. But that doesn't mean that somebody else is going to sit there and wait for you to track your journey so that you could be more accepting of their life.
Yeah.
And that in itself, for me, is an interesting thing.
Yeah. And how much does understanding all of this lend to being kind, right?
Yes.
So I think lots to...
Hopefully an interesting conversation, and hopefully you'll have a lot to say to us as well. Please listen in, please watch, and obviously share with people that you think can benefit from this conversation, because the more we understand about kindness, the more we are able to identify instances where we have been unkind ourselves. We are also going to be able to be kind to people and to ourselves. So stay tuned and watch.
And ask questions.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you, Sumi?
I am good.
How are you really feeling today?
Admittedly, I'm overwhelmed. It's been a rough few days.
Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, I've been waiting on university applications, and I sent out 13, and I have received 8 rejections. Woohoo. So, not exactly feeling too good. And the main problem is I wanted feedback. So, but they're saying, oh, they can't give feedback because that's not their policy. So I'm like, okay.
Is it the case like in every university?
Most universities, they'll be like maximum, they'll be like after we finish the process, we might be able to, but then I'll have to reach out to them. So in that case, I'm like, okay, guys, it's not so hard to give feedback, because I make it a point to give feedback to students and people who have applied to anything that I'm part of.
Correct.
So it's just one line, like this is where it needs to go, and this is what we were looking for. It's not, we are not asking you for a page of like a response to my thesis proposal. So that way it's been a little heavy, and also I have to apply for a visa soon. You know that I've had a bit of a difficult conversation with one agent. I spoke to another guy who was in Bombay, who basically said that no, I have to have money in one account, and now I'm like stressing because I have a conversation with dad about it, who will stress more. So it's basically like a bit of a pool of stress. So
what's been like the brightest spot in the last few days for you then?
Since I've not thought about that, I'm actually looking forward to making a plan with my sister about what I'm going to do after if I don't get a visa. So we're looking at switching streams, marketing, not marketing, wait. So I said marketing because that's in my head. My brain does this. It's like the word I'm looking for is project management. Yes, project management. Yes.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think that is definitely something that is a
it's
much brighter spot. Like, yeah.
yeah, because I'm a little tired of academia at the moment.
I can
It's
imagine.
definitely not been a good girlfriend.
That's right.
I'm gonna have to like separate from her soon. I mean, if I get
Before it gets
if
really
I get the visa and go to Glasgow, then that's another 4 years. So
Right.
Long-term relationship.
these high femmes, I tell you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to maybe like flip the order a little bit.
Sure.
So usually at the end of the episode is when we do our quick fire.
Cool.
Should we just start off with a quick fire perhaps?
Yeah,
And
maybe
get
it'll just
ourselves,
help my brain sort of
warmed up a little bit?
thinking.
Yeah, that's
Thinking,
perfectly
yes.
fine. Super. So the first question is, why is kindness important to you?
Because I'm kind to others.
That's nice.
If people are not kind, then I mean, if people were kind, we wouldn't be in the place we are in right now. And I'm not going to make more comments about that.
Awesome.
Eventually, yes, but
Yeah. Yeah. Can kindness be learned?
No. You have to have it inherently in you. I've found people try too hard, and often it's performative. It's like, kindness is very important to me, but the second they say that, they'll be unkind to the same person who expects that from them. And an example is, I reached out to a friend after a really bad episode of like getting an abusive email from another friend, and this woman would just keep going on about being kind and like, a part of that whole left liberal rhetoric of like, we are so open and
kind to everyone.
inclusive.
Yes, that is
My
the
favorite word. So I reached out to her saying, like, listen, this person has sent this abusive email.
Right.
To which she said, oh, you must have done something.
Without even hearing it out.
No, not really. You must apologize to him. People who talk about being kind don't know how to be kind. So it's inherent. It has to be inherent. It cannot be learned.
That's an interesting technique. I don't think we've had that one before.
Yeah,
right?
I think, at least for me, like I've always believed it can be learned.
Right.
Because I've seen people, I mean, I've said this before, but I think if you think it works here, but when you've been faced with an unkindness, you can respond to it one of two ways, right? You can either choose to take that kindness and dump it on someone else because you're like, I don't want to be the only one feeling this way.
Yeah.
Or you can say, I hated how that felt, and I never want to do that to anyone, and never want to make another person experience that as well. And so for me, that is learning from kindness, right? Or learning to be kind as per the question. So that's what I'm saying.
But in order for that, you have to be open and you have to be in a mature enough place to unlearn that you've been unkind.
Yeah.
And more often than not, 80% of people in my experience don't know what that's like. So yeah, that's where I'm coming from.
That's fair, I think.
Yeah.
But the response thing is true. Like you'd feel that that's a natural thing to do, right? Where you don't want to be treated that way, so you want to change your response.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, most people don't do that.
Right. True. Okay, since this is quick fire,
Yes,
I'm
yes.
sorry, we will get into the next question. But I do want to explore this a little more because this is not something that we've heard earlier, and it's also a slight deviation from how Dhriti and I have sort of looked at kindness.
yeah.
But I do want to explore that further. What is your idea of a kinder world?
It's just, it'll be more synonymous with non-judgmental behavior, where actions are based on not on judgment of what other people are doing, saying, being, but just your inherent. The response has to be gentle.
Yeah.
I think gentleness is something that is actually kind of radical nowadays.
Yeah.
And it's always like you have to be loud, you have to be hard-edged, and gentleness is understood as some sort of a weakness. So for me, I think a gentle world would be what a kind world would look like.
I love that actually. I love that. If kindness looked like a person, who would it be?
Have you seen Good Omens? You've read the books?
This is of course our
So there are two characters, Azrael and Crowley. Crowley is a demon. Azrael is the angel. The character who plays the actor who plays Azrael is Michael Sheen. He looks like kindness.
It's fun. Okay,
I mean,
have to check this out. Have to obviously check this out. Okay, I am definitely going to edit this bit out, but why am I forgetting the name of the author? I know this author so well.
Neil Gaiman.
This is Neil Gaiman. Yes. Yeah.
That happens, no?
Yeah.
Just like I know this.
Know this.
Be kind to yourself, Vismaya.
No, man, this is not one of those places. Okay. Do you wish you knew how to be kinder to people around you, to the world around you?
If I'm being completely honest with myself, like if you'd asked me this question a few months ago, I'd have been like, yeah, maybe. But I think I know how to be kind more than anybody else. And it comes naturally to me because I think I inherited from my grandfather, who was so kind that he made a mistake with the house that we're living in right now, and I'm dealing with the repercussions.
Out. That's funny, but at the same time, kind of tragic.
Yeah, because he's not there anymore, and I'm like, Tata, thanks.
Thanks for the aftermath of your kindness.
Yeah.
What's something that you would like to unlearn?
Being a good kid.
That resonates with me. Please, I'm just going to go against the rules and ask you to expand upon that.
You're told, na? You have to fit.
Yeah.
You have to be. Let's take the example of choosing your lifestyle. You have to want to be a thin person. You have to want to be healthy. But how do you choose what health plan do you choose? What kind of weight loss plan do you choose? Has to fit in with what other people think. The second you say, no, I go to kickboxing classes, I learn mixed martial arts. No, yoga is better. So I wish I could unlearn listening to people and trying to fit in.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I don't fit in a lot of places, but the one thing I do wish I could actually positively unlearn is being a good girl, being a good kid. Girl, because one is grown up as a assigned female at birth. So, yeah, that's what I want to unlearn.
That resonates with me very, very deeply, you know. There are so many expectations from you, and a lot of them are self-inflicted.
Yeah.
Because you have somehow put yourself into that role of being a good girl.
Yeah.
And you somehow feel that you're going to fail everybody around you if you don't conform, if you don't do certain things. And over a period of time, it comes at a cost of taking things away from who you want to be and who you are really. So yeah, this good girl syndrome
it's terrible. I mean, it really affects you because after a point you're masking for so long. You don't realize which part is the good girl and which part is the performance of it.
True.
Yeah.
And I'm like, right now I'm trying to like unpack a few things.
Yeah.
But also like unpacking it means that you'll have to change the way you've been, and then that's also tiring.
True.
So
it's exhausting.
Yeah, it's exhausting. It's like at 38, I just want to lie down.
I
And
hear
I feel
you.
like that also comes from like these expectations we've built for ourselves, and also
yeah.
like my family sees me as this and my friends see me as this, and if what I feel like I am now doesn't resonate with those, it's a whole mental conflict of like I don't want to like let go of all these people, but also I can't keep up this rules. I can't keep up this
exactly. I mean,
pretense.
I don't think it's letting go of the people. I think it's more like letting go of my therapist actually said, what does it look like to you? What does being a good person look like to you? This good that we've established, it's my grandmother's voice in my head all the time. We can expand on that later because that's the root of my entire psychology. So it's also like, how do you think a good person should be?
Yeah.
So that is,
Yeah, yeah, and that's the harder part also, right? Because you're trying to separate a few things that are inherently you, but you don't want to be associated with them anymore. You're
Yeah.
trying to find this new version of you, which is a lot more empowered. It's
also
a
it's
lot,
not really a new version. It's a version that was there when you were really young.
yeah.
And it's especially when you deal with the neurodivergence. I'm on the autism spectrum, so my brain automatically has been working very differently. And it doesn't process the world in similar ways that neurotypicals might. So going back to the things that I was thinking as a child, this is like until about your 10 years old is when that
Your brain's
when-
expanding.
when the brain has started learning and will eventually learn societal constructs and start making you think about being a good kid.
Yeah.
Whereas the autistic brain is not a bad kid, it's just someone with other needs. So it's also that going back there and trying to remember, because a lot of us won't remember what we were thinking when we were 10, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let alone earlier.
Yeah.
So
In fact, can you talk to us a little more about what it was like growing up in a household which perhaps, I mean, I'm just drawing a gross estimation over here as a South Indian family. I mean, as being somebody from a South Indian family rather, there are certain expectations in terms of academics. There are certain expectations in terms of co-curricular activities or sports or whatever it is. So again, there is a high need to ace everything.
yes,
So how was it coping with that? And when was it that you actually found out that you were on the spectrum?
second one first. I found out 3 years ago.
Okay.
So exactly when I hit 35, I was like talking to my therapist, and they were like, "Listen, it sounds like it's not just complex PTSD, but it's a thing that has been there since you were a kid." As to growing up, that was difficult. The expectations for my academic excellence and being good in school were kind of not so much, because my grandfather was able to kind of tell people off a little bit. But the expectation was to be a thin, good-looking kid, which apparently I wasn't. So my grandmother had a big role to play in that. So one had to wear feminine clothes, one has to not be dark, one could not put on weight, one could not be angry, one could not express emotions of
Dissent,
dissent
discomfort.
towards the person who's providing your life. And this is my father also. But the academic expectations only sort of started becoming more apparent when I got to high school. I really wasn't good at school. So, like, I barely managed to pass with math and science, which is, again, really terrible for a Tambram, isn't it? But I think my sister made up for most of that by achieving all of the academic this thing. Once I got to college, I became better with studies because I was actually interested in art history.
Right.
So, but growing up, it was more to do with making me occupy less space,
Yeah.
rather than like making sure that my achievements were stellar. Nobody was really that preoccupied with my achievements as much as not wanting me to be seen. So
How does that play out when you are somebody who is seeking kindness from somebody, and if you are constantly trained to not be seen or not be heard, how does that play out?
simple. I'm the reclusive curator. You won't see me at any of my openings. I'll just probably be somewhere else, back at home, hiding at the venue in another place. This is what happened 2 years ago at Pride. I organized this really lovely bunch of films. We watched them, but at the end of the day, there was this photo session and all of that. I was hiding inside somewhere. Like, I don't want to go out and be seen, or like be perceived rather, huh? Yeah, I don't want to be perceived. It's not like I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be perceived as this person who's done this. Like, let the thing happen and then just leave me be. So that's how it's kind of translated. I don't want to be known as anything.
Sumi, I want you to talk about how sometimes when you don't want to be seen, when you want to just disappear after doing a lot of work, how does that actually have an impact on the opportunities that you probably miss out just by virtue of not being known as the face behind all the work?
Yeah, like it's 90% of it is like being seen, right?
Yes.
And unfortunately, I'm in a career where the curator of the exhibition or the organizer of the event has to be known. While it is okay to sort of like go back in the background for a couple of times, if you are not seen all the time, people can forget. People have forgotten actually, because I've been part of, like, I'm going to talk about LGBT activities and the organizing Pride every year since 2012. So even now, when I go for a meeting, people would have forgotten that I've been around because I don't say I am. And it's like, it's not so much the opportunity as much as the credit for actually having pushed together the movement, right?
Yeah.
Now, I have a steady network, and I'm always someone who gives credit to the collective rather than individual achievements, because that's what I was taught when I first came out. So I'm really grateful to people who were leading then, who, well, ironically, are the sex workers and the transgender people from the working community who are like, we are not going to show our individual faces because this is a community event. But immediately, what you see is examples of people putting their faces forward and being called in the media, being interviewed by the press, and then the press will say, okay, so and so is a renowned social justice activist. What a renowned social justice activist is something that I'm trying to unpack even till now. And then, like, in terms of career, you have to sort of keep talking about it. And I'm not someone who has practiced constantly talking about the work that I've done.
Yeah.
And it's a substantial amount of work. I've also now it's 11 years working in visual arts and curating and in the development sector. Is it what it's called? Yeah. So, but then people will not recognize me because I'm not spoken about all the things. I'm not constantly speaking about it, or even on my socials, I'm not constantly projecting that, oh, I've done this. When you ask, I will tell you. So it definitely does impact opportunities. But I also think it's because it has to do with how you appear in terms of the aesthetic. If you are a well-groomed femme person, that's okay. Similar for masculine appearing people. But if you're somewhere in between, like me, automatically you're told to be a certain way, or you are the spotlight is moved away from you because of that appearance. And then the added layer that you are vociferous about certain things like inclusion. When you actually want inclusive spaces and you're not doing a tokenistic sort of you're not just like what's it?
Space and not doing it.
Only lip service.
Because lip service, yes.
Yeah.
So and when you call people out, you're expected to follow it with, like, these loud sloganing saying, oh, I'm calling it out. And I saw a lot of it during the CA and RC protests, where there were specific people who were taking credit for making the movement happen. And this, I think it's also a result of our culture, where we are so obsessed with the image of being or being looked at.
Yeah.
Whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on Twitter, and how you're phrasing the words you say.
Yeah.
So someone like me who's not really interested in that sort of thing will get left behind because of that, because of not being interested in doing the work. And also then the neurodivergence kicks in when you're like, okay, you're done with one thing, fine. You have relief and then move on to the next thing. You're not exactly processing that the achievement has happened.
Yeah.
So if you've done even 30 projects, you're like, okay, but that was just something I did.
Feels like a checklist.
Yeah. Constantly.
Yeah.
So now the masking is gone, the checklist making is gone. Now just sort of I'm a tired lump sitting on a couch. Yeah.
This is, I mean, I don't even claim to be at the same level, but it is tiring. And especially when you're expected to put on an act and also be this consistent brand image. I think 2 years ago when I was, I think either teaching your class, Dhriti, or maybe like your juniors at Mount Carmel, I was the person who had said, treat yourself like a brand and make sure that you guys are able to put your profiles together and push your work out. And today when I look back, that is also problematic because it makes a person very unidimensional, and that's the expectation you're setting with anybody who views you through that screen, and it becomes really difficult for them to understand that you're a full human being who has multiple emotions and wants to be seen for the multiple things that they do bring to the table or just are. You don't have to constantly do to be accepted either. So I mean, that I think is becoming more and more problematic because right now the whole creator economy again has really kicked in and made it even more difficult. It seems like you are able to generate a lot more wealth in a lot shorter duration, but at what cost?
Yeah, but also the projection of it, right?
Yeah.
You are saying that you're generating this wealth in like you're earning 20,000 in a day.
Yeah.
Are you really? Is that something that you're projecting as a number? How are you going to how is one supposed to quantify that? There is no system of actually the reliability of the information, I think, is slowly slipping away.
I don't think many people care also.
That's there also. Yeah. People are
Very
just saying,
true.
okay, number, and like, clap.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we tell us a little bit about how this entire phenomenon also plays into creating a unique niche for yourself.
Right.
And that itself can have both positives and negatives to it, right? A unique niche could also look like othering,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So in which case, are some people taking undue advantage of that
Yes.
as well? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Now, see, taking advantage of your identity and playing Oppression Olympics has been happening for a long time. Now,
I love the face.
I love your phrasing. It is.
it's like I am a minority from this specific minority, and I'm also queer, I'm also non-binary, and I also have autism. Therefore, I can be a complete to you. And nobody can say anything to me because I have
Because
the
then
words.
it seems offensive.
It's not just offensive. No, I have the words. How can you say this to me? It's like one example. Like I think we were at Indranagar Social. This, I'm gonna say kid, just flouncing around. I'm like, what's happening? You okay? Like, oh no, I think I'm hungry. I was like, okay, fine. Why don't you sit down? We'll order something. Like, so I was like, would you like chicken? What would you like to eat? Because they looked like they were having a bit of like a hunger issue. So I thought, okay, sit down, eat something. We're all going to eat something. And then I was like, okay, can I order chicken? Like, I don't know. I have this issue with textures. I'm like, okay. So what kind of textures do you like? Do you want something crisp? Do you want something soft? And this went on for a bit, and then they got really annoyed that I'm asking them so many questions, and were like, "Oh, why are you so interested in my food preferences?" I'm like, "Because you want to eat something." Oh, how do you know I wanted to eat something? I was like, "Dude."
Yeah.
So
You
I mean,
just
that
said
kind
you're
of tapered off into me being like, "Okay, you do you. I'm going to go and sit with some other people." So it also is like going back to this whole assertion of the identity, becoming a very toxic thing where you cannot argue. If you are saying something, right now I'm an older queer. I don't know when that happened. I'm still 12 years old.
Yes.
So the people who come in who are in there, who are just sort of finishing their undergrad and know all the jargon, they know they know all the cool things to say.
So, do you feel like this takes away from like all the work in a way that's gone in over the years?
It does,
One,
no?
okay, so two questions actually.
Yeah.
So, do you feel like it takes away? And also, like, do you feel like a lot of people have this need to understand something to be kind about it, right?
Yeah, so that's the thing, right? You don't actually have to understand. If someone is saying that they feel a certain way or they identify a certain way, you could just accept it as that, right?
Yeah.
And it goes both ways. Like if you are trying to come out to your family, to people who are in your perception heteronormative, in a very cute little box. How are you expecting that they, with their experiences and their learnings, are going to take 5 seconds to learn what you are telling them, which could be in complete opposition to what they've been culturally trained to think?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. Yes, being culturally sort of ingrained to be very right wing or very traditional or very rigid is obviously not great. But how are you expecting? Like even you made the move, right? You learned you were a queer person, a non-binary person, a neurodivergent person. You took your time to assimilate.
Yeah.
Some of us take less time, some of us take a longer time, but you're not giving the opportunity for the other person to actually even let the words sink in.
Yeah.
Now, understanding that another person is of different identity and needing to understand more is, again, I feel it's a bit of a talking down approach where you're like, oh, I don't understand what you're saying, therefore I will not accept what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's definitely a talking down
Yeah.
approach.
It's not that is not what we're going for. We're talking about, okay, if I'm telling you that this is what I'm going through, you saying, okay, that's fine, and let's have a conversation about it, is something that is more appropriate, right? You don't have to understand the entire encyclopedia of like what a scientist does for their life. You don't have to understand the nature of the subject of thermodynamics in order to talk to a physicist.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not. It's like whether a physicist.
Or in order
it's
to
fine.
respect them as a physicist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not necessary. I mean, there is no need to have an extended exchange of knowledge.
Yeah. That's the little one. She's
That's right,
she's finally woken up.
Fun officer.
Yeah, so I really don't think it's understanding is a necessary, which again goes in the other way, right? So when queer people, there's always this interface, like must explain to others about us. Yes, okay. When you're faced with real opposition, if the other is not really having a problem with your existence or is actually sort of, it's this reading the room situation. Yeah, autistic people can't read the room because of their neurodivergence. Yes, that is a real problem. But I'm talking about a deeper sort of, you really have to give.
Yeah.
Allies need to give enough room to hear rather than understand. And queers need to hear that they are in some way disrupting someone's cultural understandings. Now,
Wow, that's nuanced.
it's
I
very
wanna
difficult.
Stay there a little bit. Wow. Yeah. Because
I
culturally, yeah.
So say you have for the first time experienced an encounter with someone who is a transmasculine person,
Yeah.
who probably maybe has not gone through surgery,
Yeah.
but then you're thinking, what surgery, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to explain that to you, but you are also understanding that surgery is something that is a physical modification. But you know that this person is also a human being.
Yeah.
So there is that you both are human. You both have had those experiences, and I think the difficulty for me to articulate it is because it's so nuanced. It is that thing, right? I mean, I'm coming out to someone, I'm telling them about my identity, but they are not. It's not that they're not interested in my identity; they're interested in me as a person. So, a close relative, a close friend, would be like, okay, are you all right?
Yes.
But then, if you have the vocabulary and if you are angry enough, the queer will then be like, oh no, how can you ask me if I'm all right? Like, how can you? It's that it's become so difficult to be. And oftentimes, yes, it's an older generation thing. Even older queer people who have identified as just gay and lesbian or trans, these three categories, have difficulty understanding all these new terms.
Yeah.
And if you don't know the terms, you're automatically you're dismissed. And a lot of times I found that people who come from a very specific social background are very rigid in their ways. Like, I'll take the example of cis lesbians who will not accept a mask presenting non-binary person as a queer. So, without taking names, there are groups in Bangalore which are led largely by cis lesbians who will be okay if you have a feminine presenting or non-mask, no facial hair, no extra mask clothing. Mostly it's the facial hair. Those kind of people are not accepted or not part of your queer space because you're saying so. But you are outwardly projecting that you are for everyone, all queers. So
there seems to be like a lot of othering within the queer community itself, right? Like,
and it often happens when there is a dominant subculture where upper caste, upper class, working in the corporate sector, coming from money, gay and lesbian people, so now some trans people also who've had the opportunity to learn the nuances, get surgery and assimilate, but they're also assimilating. They're either trans-masculine or trans-feminine. There's no in between, like a non-binary person. So there are these social groups that will not allow queerness, like for the fluidity to happen. It's you have to be a certain kind of queer. And then it goes into a lot of unnecessary nuances, like if you're overweight, if you are expressive. So the number of times I've been told by gay men that my expression of desire is wrong, or they can ogle at and make another person uncomfortable. Like at film festival, for example. A bunch of my friends came, and then one of them is a straight boy. Immediately, all these gay boys are like, "Oh my god!" And then they actually go and physically touch and all that. It's very, very, very problematic. And I'm telling them, like, guys, like, leave him alone. Like, hey, come on. Everyone is like, has a queer tendency, has a gay tendency. I'm just like making him understand better. I'm like, how is violating someone's personal space okay?
And also when the narrative is flipped,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like I feel like it helps people understand when you flip the narrative and say if someone did this to you, you would be so uncomfortable. Why
Yeah.
would you do that to another person?
Yeah, why would
right?
you do that, right? I've seen people getting like physically, it is physical molesting. Like shouldn't be calling it anything else.
Yeah.
And then it's always laughed off as like, oh, I was just playing around. How is that okay? How is it okay for a woman also, and at these women only parties, to cop a feel of a younger person because she was being friendly? And when called out, like, oh, nowadays everyone is like, so radical. So what? No, so touchy. I'm just being friendly. I'm like, you weren't being friendly. You were being a creep. And I've also experienced being called a creep for talking to people. So we were at another. So again, all these social events. I'm at the bar. This girl standing next to me. I was like, hey, what's up? Like, I have a girlfriend. I'm like, okay.
Oh, wow.
Or talk to someone and then immediately someone kind of like comes at you saying, oh, how can you don't hit on everyone. I'm like, I was saying hello, man, come on. It's a social event. If you don't say hello to people, how else? You're supposed to sit in the corner. Who can say hello to whom? Again, it's all structured. It's structured around this idea of who can desire, who is allowed to desire, and how you express that. So if you are not in the binaries, if you are not in the aesthetics of someone, of what people are desiring, you cannot express desire. And that becomes extremely problematic. And I'm talking about a very personal experience here where I don't socialize because of this experience, because of being told that my desire is wrong.
That can be so limiting.
Not just limiting, it's like, it's downright rude.
And it also chips away at your personality, right? Because you don't get to interact with those many people and you can't be who you are.
Yeah, you can't be who you are. You can't. You start overthinking basic conversations.
Yeah.
So then what? Then I've had this problem of understanding words for the longest time. Like, you're saying be open, you're saying inclusive, and then you're excluding people then by saying those things only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Where is the
there is a very toxic trait among the urban queers that makes it even more difficult for us to assimilate within also.
Okay, I want to actually ask a question which I really want to know. So Sumi is the elder sister of this friend of mine whom I love very dearly, Shubhangi, very, very, very dearly. And I know that Shubhangi is fiercely protective of Sumi's feelings. Extremely. Right?
She will drive over a person with a car if they hurt me.
And I love that. I love
that.
that sibling bond that you guys have, touch wood. I want to understand from you what kind of support system she brings to your life and how was it like coming out to Shubhangi?
It was actually. I was like, I think at the first girl who asked me out, I was like, okay, man, see, Shubhangi and we've had our differences when we were younger. We've started getting close. We started getting closer when I think both of us started hitting closer to 30. Now it's a strong bond.
Yeah.
Because it's 4 or 5 years, we've sort of really understood each other and been like, you know what, also a lot of what has happened.
Yeah.
So we're like, you know what, let's not be like the rest of the extended family and completely nuts, and like at least try to support each other. So I think I was talking to her and was like, oh, I'm going out with a girl, and she was very interested in the details, and I'm like, girl, no. But now she's also seen that I have a pattern of dating very alpha femme women, fairly dangerous. And she's like, Sumi, no. One of her phrases was, I'll beat you with a stick. I think she also realized the problem when I cannot say no.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to like some of these girls who are like,
I was speaking to her recently, and she said, all you Taurians know. I don't know how you land up with people like this. And I'm like, sorry, man, we just attract the wrong kind.
no. We go after the wrong
Wrong
kind.
kind, you know? That was fun. It was a fun, long conversation that we had.
I've taken flights to meet someone I was dating and was told we were in a situationship. I went to Udaipur.
I know about this one. Yeah.
Yeah, imagine taking a flight, booking a hotel.
It's an expensive situation.
Yeah. For me, not for them. They lived in Udaipur. Few months later, like, oh, we're in a situationship. I don't think it's going to work out. I'm like,
To my
we weren't
flight
really.
ticket.
Yeah, I know. Like 40,000-50,000 bucks I spent, yeah.
My
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
So this is very toxic lesbian behavior. No,
Yes,
no.
I know.
We are trying to change that.
Until 2022, I was still sending my glorious ex chocolates on her birthday. Not just any chocolates, huh?
Oh God, do I want to know?
Maybe.
Okay, I want to know.
So like collections of Lindor, like curated basket.
Oh, wow.
She was interested in like doing some art at one point, so sent her a painting kit.
As it turns out, today while we're recording this this podcast episode, it's my birthday. So yeah, and I should also
Should we sing? Should we sing?
No,
Yeah, let's sing.
hang on.
Let's sing.
I just wanted a box of curated chocolates, and then suddenly it occurred to me that Sumi actually baked a cake for me. So I want to say thank you on camera.
Oh, welcome. Just be careful while you eat it.
It's got a lot of butter.
I'm not even talking about like weight gain, anything. It's just slowly. Eat it maybe over 3 days.
Like knowing me, 30 minutes and I'd be done with it. But no,
I
I
don't know.
should control.
There are
control.
repercussions because you'll just feel like shit after, yeah? Because I ate one small piece and I was like,
No, also like 36 is not the best time for metabolism, so it's like really slowing down. I will behave. I will
piece and I was
behave.
feeling sick for like the entire day. I'm like, why is this my life?
I'm loving my life right now.
Touch it, touch it.
Touching all the wood that exists.
Sumi, I want to ask you, when you come across a new person and they, without batting an eyelid, are very accepting of you and happy to be with you, happy to be associated with you, learn from you, does that make you skeptical in any way?
I get frightened.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, what are you going to do? Because I have encountered people like this and who are like very open, very, very like, oh my God, you're amazing. And few months down the line, say pretty nasty things. But if I were to encounter someone like that now, I'd be very, very, very skeptical about their intentions, about what exactly they are on about, what they want from this.
Yeah.
Because invariably it's two things. It's like they want to be, they want to meet other queers and they see me as a sort of person who will introduce them to the community, the larger community. Or you do attract people who are narcissistic also because of a lot of layering. Your self-confidence might not be that great. So if someone's actually telling you that you're so amazing, you'll be like, oh, okay, maybe I am. And like, it's as much as I'd be skeptical, I'll also be like a little, I'd wonder what they wanted out of this.
Yeah. No, but even if it is a cis-het person who probably had nothing to gain from the community itself, but it's just the person that they are. And similar to what Dhriti was asking, right? You don't possibly need to understand, but you are kind. So when you are that person and you go and are open about the fact that you want to be friends, that was the space that I was asking from. Do you feel like skeptical? Do you feel like what is it that you want out of me?
At this point in life, yes, very skeptical, very unsure of what the person's intent is, what the conversation or what the conversations will be like, and it's not even about understanding anymore. It's about like the. I think where I'm going with this is a lot of people who want to be allies or who I want to be friends with have shown that they are not really interested in being friends with me, but more like an idea of what they think I should be. So this happened with a friend who I had to unfortunately break up with. We knew each other for 10 years.
Wow.
And I thought we were quite close. But there was always this feeling I got that they wanted me to be something else. That, yeah, this is great, but. So that's something that is a kind of written in my brain, that people will want me to be something else. It's again going to be the good queer, the good kid, the good fatty who wants to exercise and wants to lose weight.
Falls into the
Yeah.
columns.
But madam being unhealthy was fine. But I had to emulate. So it's a projection. A lot of times I find myself getting closer to people who project their insecurities onto me.
Right.
So in working on that is, should I avoid everyone, which is sad.
Yeah.
So when someone new comes into my life, I'm very, very skeptical of what they want from me.
Yeah.
Because it's always what they want from me, not what I can give them.
Yeah.
Once they take, they'll go. So yes, I think that's where I would place myself.
So it must get difficult to also seek kindness, no, in general,
Yeah.
because you feel like I will give everything I have and more, and then ultimately this person is just going to be a taker.
Yeah.
And is going to leave the scene as soon as their needs are met. So how do you sort of figure your space?
I'm honestly still figuring it out.
Yeah.
I started needing to have my own space, or feeling that I deserve my own space only like a few years ago. And I think it's all started when I moved into my grandmother's house.
Right.
So since that time, I've been very, very, what's the word? Mindful of what is mine. Also, I mean, drawing boundaries is very difficult for people like me who've constantly been told that my boundaries are not real. So growing up, not really having a space of one's own, not really having a room of one's own.
Yeah.
So I'm still learning. I can't say that there is a method, there is something that I follow. I don't know.
Yeah.
But slowly just sort of actually thinking about what it is that I like around me,
Yeah.
and marking territory, like literally if I was a puppy, like peeing all over my rooms. It's like, this is my house, nobody else enters.
But also, like, talking about your house and your family, like, I mean, not necessarily just in your family, but like, where are the good spots in like your life? Like, what are the things that are your safe space or your safe haven? Can be like movies, literature, anything, right? Like, what's your go-to safe place? Escape. Yeah.
Movies.
Ooh.
I am notorious for like watching everything, and also complaining about why did I watch that. I sat through Hira Mandi in 2 days.
Oh wow.
I watched it.
Okay, maybe you should be awarded a medal for it. I couldn't watch more than 10 minutes of it. Sorry, Bansali ji, but yeah.
No, the last episode is nice.
Oh yeah, then I'll probably just watch the last.
Yeah, I'll watch the last episode. Everything kind of makes you feel nice, and
Okay.
the guy is a master visualist.
Yeah, that
So
he is.
he's done the
sure.
thing. The 8 episodes were like, I angry watched it. I won't lie.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of TV, movies. I'm into speculative fiction. So right now I'm a little hooked on. There's this thing called the Dead Boys Detectives. So it's Neil Gaiman only, the same universe as Sandman.
Ooh, love Sandman.
You've seen it, nah? It's so beautiful. It's
Let
about
our,
well, it's
our
literally-
cinematographer nodding there.
So the premise is these two kids are dead,
Yeah.
but they don't necessarily move on because they want to stay on Earth. And then they have a detective agency, and then they solve all these crimes for other people to help them move on. It's very
Gaiman.
cute.
Mastermind.
Yeah.
I loved Sandman.
I know, right? Oh, the next season is coming. Mason Alexander Park has been like posting being on set, and I'm like, damn it.
I want to be there too.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah, I do. I will go and watch the early show and the latest shows, because those will be when the least people will bother me. And I have my little bike, so I'll go to Orion Mall. So and for the 9 o'clock show. And if I've woken up early enough for the 8 a.m. show, I have to watch Shah Rukh Khan and Rajinikanth films first day first show. Otherwise, it's a travesty.
Yeah, this I know about you. Yes. yes.
I think I saw all the good films this year.
Awesome. But talking about media and television and movies and everything, right? Firstly, what do you think about the way in which the queer community is addressed in our mainstream films? The second related question to that would be how much of what they show is actually protracted versus what actually transpires, because I do understand that real life has a lot of layers.
Yeah.
And you can't tell a linear story.
No.
And it has to have those layers, and there are too many nuances because of contexts that you need to have a different way to address every situation that you come across. So in that case, for people who are deriving all their knowledge from watching movies on how to be allies, for instance, or how to just be around a queer person, or even a neurodivergent person for that matter, what do you think they can do better, or perhaps just continue to do?
I think a lot of cinema is stuck in a bubble of its own, where it's not necessarily addressing queerness as a diverse spectrum. But television, OTT platforms like Made in Heaven, or even these series where there's the Trinetra is dating someone, and there's, I forget what the name of that series is.
There was Made in Heaven, actually, season 2 though.
No, Trinetra is in Made in Heaven, but she's also in another.
Yes, the queer couple.
Some couple thing. So like people like her are, I mean, there's a lot of hatred towards her because she comes from a upper class, privileged situation. But also seeing a trans person like her on screen, for me, I felt very proud of her. Because I'm happy that she's managed to go from being a doctor to like being an actor, and actually sort of making it to well-watched things.
Yes.
But for me, what was most poignant about Made in Heaven was the first season where he gets arrested for being caught on camera and Section 377. And I feel that is the most misunderstood part of 377 in media, because yes, you can get someone arrested by showing evidence of like film, but what is Section 377? It's basically unnatural sex, which can be anything, which can be anal, which can be done, which is between cishet people, also unnatural positions to take. So how is that law understood as only a queer thing, as only a gay thing, to incriminate? And it's also been, for the longest time, been used to incarcerate trans people.
Right.
So it's always the trans working class people who fall in the real margins who kind of get affected by it. This guy getting affected by it because the landlord is a creepy fellow.
Right.
We all felt like, a lot of us were watching it and we were like, shit.
Yeah.
And because at that time, I think there was a lot of noise about it happening in the media. And even till date, I don't think it is fully understood what the reading down of Section 377 in the IPC is. Like, yes, it has been read down, but there are still possibilities of being, not just repercussions, of being implicated in that. Has it been struck off the IPC? No. It's just not something that is relevant anymore. But will people understand that? Is it okay to come out in semi-urban, peri-urban India? Is it okay? Even if it is okay, what does that okay look like?
Yeah.
And then there the nuance is like, okay, if you want to tell your parents, what do you want to tell them? Why do you want to tell them? This out and proud American sort of thing of like, you have to tell your parents your identity. No, you don't have to.
You do what's safest for you,
Yeah.
right? And what makes sense for you. I think this whole idea of even like this visualization around the idea of coming out.
Yeah.
It's you doing you. It doesn't have to be this huge announcement to the whole world. It's so misrepresented right now.
And even if you announce it, like, are you really not thinking about the kid who is possibly getting sodomized by his uncle and older brothers?
Yeah.
It will become worse for him. And I'm taking a specific example of boys because those are the least spoken about. Yes, there's a lot of gay men talking about being like, molested as children and all that, but you really don't talk about this idea, this grooming also.
Yeah.
That an older queer person will only groom a younger person. Not that it's not, it might be true, but the percentage is like maybe 0.5%. Majoritarily, it's older men who are grooming younger kids, boys or girls. So that if you're going to put yourself in that danger, why the would you say you're queer?
Yeah.
No, you won't.
Yeah.
And this also goes down to people who are very prominently in the social justice sector, so on social media going, oh, you have to fight your family, you have to like tell them off, you have to be like, you have to empower yourself. I'm like, you can in your Brahmin, upper caste, very cushy life where you're not living at home, you've married a man and you're living your said dream life.
Yeah.
You can say that and without any repercussions.
Yeah.
How are you expecting someone who is even slightly lesser or someone who doesn't want to confront, knowing that family history is really terrible?
Yeah.
I've had a really difficult relationship with my dad and my grandmother, and I mean, she lives next door, but I tolerate her. I'm not going to tell either of these people directly that I'm queer because of the conversations that
Correct.
and I'm coming from a very, very upper caste position.
Yeah.
I am extremely privileged in public view.
Yeah.
I live in a relatively decent and very, very decent area. I appear to have enough money. There is no perceived problem, but I'm not going to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's also that invisibilization, right? Oh, we're queer, very good, clap, clap, clap. That's what my immediate family will do. They will not ask me questions about who I'm dating, but they will ask my cishet cousins. Immediately, if there's even the whiff of a boyfriend, oh my God, bring him over. We have to have tea. We have to see this boy. Like, why? Why don't you want to see the girl that I'm dating?
I mean, I can attest to this as a cishet person that after a certain age, that question withers away regardless, right? And
Yeah.
and it's only nosy people who just want to understand where you're at, who will actually prod you further to answer that question. This sort of brings me to my question of how much to ask
Right.
and how much to not walk on eggshells when you want to genuinely connect with somebody who has been othered.
When if that's your intention.
Yeah.
Your intention is genuine.
Yeah.
Ask the questions. I mean, if the person is feeling othered, if the person is feeling that there is a problem, they will tell you.
Yeah.
Because if you're saying, okay, let's take an example of I'm telling you that I'm non-binary.
Yeah.
You maybe don't fully grasp the concept of it. Ask me what it is.
Correct.
It's okay.
Yeah.
And we are two people talking about it, and we have the privilege of language to be able to have this conversation.
Yes.
My concern always will be with the people who don't have the language, who don't have the privilege, who don't have the access.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the little boy who's in some village, who doesn't know that he might be a trans woman.
Yeah. In closing, Sumi, if you were to find yourself in a kinder world, what would your advice to other people be, just to help create this kinder space?
Don't try too hard. Because the second you start trying too hard, it becomes performance. For a person, and I'll give an example of how I, as someone who is autistic, for me, small things will trigger. Sound change. I'm out at a dinner. The restaurant changes the volume of the music,
Yeah.
and I'll be like, okay, it's really loud. Don't immediately be like, no, it's okay, it's okay. I'm like, yeah, it's loud for me. It might be okay for you. So if you were to be like, yeah, it's loud, and maybe try to figure if the volume can be lowered. If it is not a party situation, then that would be an example.
Yeah.
If you know that I get anxious when too many questions are asked, or if it's a tense situation, don't try to smooth it over by saying everything is okay.
Yeah.
Let it flow, because yes, I'm an autistic person, but I'm also a person.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, I'm also a person, and
So important and so fundamental. Oh.
and I'm also in a situation where I might be masking, I might not be masking. You also might be doing some social projection of the person that you are. So it's just, I think what I'm trying to get to is come from a non-judgmental space when you are having a conversation, and automatically things will start becoming gentle.
Yeah.
Because non-judgmental doesn't mean, I don't think polyamory is a bad thing. No, that's not non-judgmental. Non-judgmental is okay, your polyamorous is great. Cool. Do you want to drink?
Yeah.
No, not do you want to have a threesome? Because that's ridiculous. Yeah. So yeah, I think if you just start with being actually non-judgmental, or maybe unlearn what your non-judgmental might mean, I think that opens up a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. True. And I feel like this went perfectly full circle to what you said in the beginning of what would a kinder world look like, and you said a gentle one.
Yeah.
And I think that was just so beautiful, because I've never thought about it like that. So I'm always like, oh, less of this or more of that, and
Hayao Miyazaki.
I will, yes.
He has really shown glimpses of a very gentle world.
I love his work.
I haven't seen Boy in the Heron though.
Same. It's coming out in theaters, by the way.
Yeah?
In India.
When?
Middle of this month.
Okay, I'm booking first day for sure.
Yeah,
I think
my
all of us
friends
should go together, since we're all co-located or whatever it is that they call it. Not working from home.
Yeah.
But I also want to acknowledge that one of the things that you said was you do feel anxious when you have a lot of questions asked to you. I deeply appreciate you doing this. And I think
let me explain that a little further.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of questions in the sense, like say, explaining something to a lawyer. and they fire back with this like tack, 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 and there's a lot of details.
Okay.
In that particular context, it's where I start getting anxious.
Right.
And numbers.
Yeah.
Oh,
Numbers even mean.
Ratul makes me do, for everyone else, Ratul is like the third person in our team almost. And I do this monthly report and he always makes me do the numbers. And I get like, sometimes I'm just like, I don't know how many times more than this one I ask ChatGPT.
ChatGPT is amazing. Like, especially for someone who
I'm
doesn't...
doing math on ChatGPT though.
It's okay. Dude, I've started structuring my conversations with people on ChatGPT. Thank
So
you for
fourth
saying
member,
that.
fourth member ChatGPT. No, I deeply appreciate it. I deeply appreciate it because I know some of the things that we, casually chat about when we talk together as friends is not really easy to talk about on a camera. And knowing fully well that this is going to go out to people who may or may not appreciate what you're saying. Right?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some people commenting about, no, queer community is so golden. Oh my God.
Yeah. To each their own. Yeah.
Oh, gee, you're doing a little scritch. You're moving around now.
Yeah. After all the snoring that she did.
But can I just ask one last, like, just briefly answer this? When Vismaya and I originally reached out, you were hesitant. What changed your mind?
So, I have not spoken about being non-binary or neurodivergent in public at all. It's a very close friends and sort of families discussion. And I think I want to start actively talking about this experience because, I mean, it's a very academic thing for me actually. My thesis subject is talking about personal journey of being a queer curator in India and all the problems that come with it. So I'm like, a lot of times you don't really talk about what is it to be an autistic queer person.
Yeah.
So I'm actually trying to sort of craft my online presence a little more. Maybe I'll do it in the next couple of months. Maybe I'll not do it at all. But I've been wanting to think about it more focused.
Yeah.
So I think that was what I was like, okay, maybe this is a starting point. So thank you guys, actually.
Thank you so much for doing this, honestly. Like, it was just such a pleasure to have you join us and just share so openly.
And so patient with the entire process, right? Because we do know that we are quite thorough in terms of sending across some of the indicative questions that we might want to ask. Because again, one of the things about this podcast is we don't want to throw anybody in a loop, and we'd like for them to come fully prepared and understanding fully what they're getting into. And it's not a space for you to, in that sense of the word, sit on the hot seat and be interrogated.
Yeah. It didn't feel like an interrogation at any point. And also a lot of the questions were lived experience. So lived experiences might not be easy to talk about, but it is something you know.
Yeah.
So in that particular context, I think I was fairly comfortable with what the long list that she sent.
Sorry about the long list. I just didn't want to seem like...
No, I was having a very proud teacher moment. I'm like, oh, this is so concise. This is like a proper fieldwork interview.
No, the original list was longer, and then I was writing out these questions, and I was like, I'm getting overwhelmed writing them out. But yeah, I think we are at the end of this. But thank you so much for coming, and it was just lovely to have you. And I'm going to do the outro because we have to.
To please the algorithm gods.
The algorithms. But yeah, this is the Kind podcast, episode 4 of season 2, and we are on Instagram and Facebook, and I think LinkedIn also now. So please follow us at the Kind podcast, and we will see you on the next episode.
Yay! Thank you so very much. Take care.
Bye all the cameras.